But there was that little piece of me that's like, yeah, no, I definitely don't look like I belong here. / let me show you. Let me do my best and show you that I do belong here. It's really a challenging place to be.
99% of success is courage. I'm convinced of it. You're either afraid of failure or you're afraid of success. You're either afraid of being incompetent and not enough, or you're afraid of not fitting in. 99% of success is courage. You gotta have the courage to act anyway.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed yesterday's episode number 1721, The Antidote to Arrogance. Sounds like a good band name. Today, for episode number 1722, the 2 types of imposter syndrome. So another quick disclaimer, this is going to be like a 13-minute episode because we have 13 minutes.
Sounded like an emo band.
An emo band?
A punk rock emo band.
A little bit, yeah.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. It would probably be something else, though, like the antidote to ambition or something. That would be emo. The antidote to arrogance is good. That's like, I do love emo music, though. I'm a huge fan.
I have been listening on the reg to early 2000s music lately.
Yeah.
The punk rock stuff.
You remember My Chemical Romance? You remember My Chemical Romance?
Yeah. Some of those songs were bangers, man.
Did you know the lead singer of My Chemical Romance, his name is Gerard, I believe, cousins with Joe Rogan?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I read that somewhere. Fact check that. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think it might be. I do think it is. I do. All right,
people are related to each other.
But
and we have 12 more minutes for this episode.
What are the odds?
Yeah.
You know, My Chemical Romance. Who knew? All right, the 2 types of imposter syndrome. I went on a podcast the other day, and I was having imposter syndrome about going on a podcast to talk about imposter syndrome because this was a business show. And when we did the discovery call, some hosts like you to hop on a call long before you do the podcast episode to make sure you're a good fit. And he said, what do you think you can bring to the show? Like, what is your thing? And I was like, well, honestly, anything in the self-improvement realm I feel good on. You know, relationships, ego, confidence, consistency. I do a lot of sales, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, what else you got? Because a lot of people come on and do sales. Like, let's see if there's anything unique we can do. And eventually we landed on imposter syndrome. And I said, I think that's one thing that's just not talked about enough in business. Because every time you get a new opportunity, and if you're afraid to do it because you feel like an imposter, it's really hard to get there. So this host was very, very, very confident. And he was talking about, he's like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like at times I struggle with imposter syndrome, but not in the same way. And eventually, throughout the interview, I said, you know what's very interesting? You seem like you're very confident and very capable. I'm willing to bet, based on what you've told me today, that you get imposter syndrome in social situations. I get imposter syndrome in competence, professional situations. And he's like, yeah, that's fair. I don't really feel like I fit in. I don't really like talking about small talk and stuff, so I feel like I am an imposter and I feel like I'm going to get found out. And that goes hand in hand with what we've experienced, where the 2 types of fear, I guess, for lack of better phrasing, are you're not good enough or you're not going to fit in. You stand out in competence versus relationships.
Isn't that hilarious how the people who aren't quote unquote good enough as their fear actually want to stand out? And the people who do stand out want to fit in?
It is. I'm convinced that I don't know if anybody really knows what they want.
Dude.
Yeah, dude.
I've been, bro. Ever since we're talking about punk rock, now we're just broing out early 2000s. The people who do really, really, really stand out, they usually have a lot of pain associated with not belonging. And the people who fit in easily tend to want to stand out more. It's just interesting.
Isn't the weirdest thing about that, though, I'm sorry to interrupt you, isn't that the weirdest thing, that the people who actually are comfortable standing out the most technically do fit in the most because they're the authentic version of themselves? So in theory, they're the ones who are winning the game, for lack of better phrasing.
Yeah,
That's
3
a
buckets.
weird
The
part.
first one is feel like you're not enough, but you fit in easily. The second one is you're weird and different and you know it and you kind of don't fit in and still want to. And the third bucket, which is the guide, where I think we're both trying to get, is comfortable with whichever fear you have and overcome it by being authentic. And not in the ego way, but in the I do care what you think and I do fear not being good enough, but I'm going to sit in that, own it, and be empowered anyway. That kind of thing.
I went on a show that you went on, and they were asking me questions, and one of the questions was about systems.
Nice.
And I said, "Didn't you just interview Alan?" And they laughed. And I said, "No, I'm serious. Like, I don't know if I have a really good answer to that." They were like, "Well, what would you do?" And I said, "I would go to ask Alan. If I was in the same situation as you, as me, because I have access to Alan, he's my business partner, my best friend, I would go ask him." And I said, honestly, I think that's probably the best piece of advice I can give you. Old Kevin would have tried to come up with some really fire answer or some one-liner because I was afraid that they would think less of me than they did you.
Yep.
100%. But I went into that interview very much like, look, Alan and I are very different. This is kind of my jam. This is his jam. This is who I am. And I even told you about this other podcast where he said, I thought I was going to be underdressed today, Kev. Look at you. It wasn't a super hard dig. It was a funny, like, we're close enough bros at this point where I can give you this little locker room joke. But there was that little piece of me that's like, yeah, no, I definitely don't look like I belong here. / let me show you. Let me do my best and show you that I do belong here. It's really a challenging place to be.
As long as that's not fawning. Because those little ribbings are energetic, weird things.
I think fawning would have been my apologies for not. Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Nice.
It wasn't that. It was like,
that's so true. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is me.
I kind of have a sweater on, but I had my hat backwards. It was a day. It was a long ass day. It's been a long ass week. I'm just trying to get through, son.
Yeah.
But it's also the one opportunity that I have to meet this person, so it makes sense.
The overswing would have been, I'm out.
Yeah.
The underswing would have been, I'm so sorry, I should have dressed nicer. And I think the center would be, yeah, all right, let's.
It's like,
yeah,
it's fair.
Day. Yeah, fair.
It's fair. I have my hat backwards. I am wearing a sweater though. I have like a sweater on. You'd very rarely see me in a sweater.
Yeah, let's do this thing. If it's not aligned, it's not aligned. I do that a lot. Is this not aligned anymore?
Yeah.
If it's not aligned, I totally understand. I do that a lot because I don't want to be interviewed by someone who doesn't want to interview.
100%.
But we're also in a place too where we can do that. Whereas in the beginning, you kind of need. It's weird. It's wonky.
Well,
so
that's why your self-worth is so hard to keep in the beginning of a journey, because you are taking a lot of L's and people are kind of not taking advantage of you, but
yeah.
Next Level Nation, what is happening? If you've thought to yourself, I want to try coaching, but you don't really know where to start, group coaching would be a wonderful place for you. That's really why we created it in the first place. We start a new round every 90 days. So if you're hearing this, go to the website, nextleveluniverse.com, and we have the landing page where you can actually hold your spot right now. Even if there's a group going on right now, you can still lock your spot for the next one. The biggest thing that we've seen is as we get closer and closer to the date, unfortunately, some people end up missing. The group fills up and they can't do it, and then they end up regretting that. So please head over to the website. The link will be in the show notes, and we would love to see you there. When you're not in the power position, it's really hard to maintain your self-worth because you're kind of losing it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother conversation.
What was the original topic? Imposter syndrome.
The original topic was the 2 types of imposter syndrome.
So the type that you're referring to is competence. When you had the podcast with a NASA doctor.
Yeah.
Or a space doctor. I don't know if it was NASA. It was NASA?
No, it was NASA. Yeah,
it was NASA.
NASA.
Awesome.
Is there any other space? In the US?
I mean,
Is
yeah,
it just
SpaceX,
NASA?
and there's other private companies now that do space stuff.
Good to know. I'll know where to apply after I get kicked off the show.
I got a guy. I'm kidding.
No, sure.
All right. I'm not kidding. I actually do, but whatever. So, oh, God. pro tip, expert tip.
I was gonna say how much did that hurt your soul to say that? I can see it leave you.
You literally. You want to talk about imposter syndrome? Here's the truth. I actually do have a guy, but I don't like to say things like that because it comes off so arrogant.
Yep.
So I have a 10,000 hour tracker of coaching, speaking, podcasting, and training, and I just surpassed probably around 8,000. The reason why I used to hide things like that and or be weird when I did actually say it is because I was afraid to make everyone else feel insecure and or to come off as arrogant or be villainized or whatever. So Kevin and I were at a barbecue one time, and I said, dude, this is so hard for me. These are so hard for me. I don't like to small talk. I don't really want to catch up on this and that. I don't really like to talk. There's a great Eleanor Roosevelt quote where she says, small minds talk about people, good minds talk about places and things, and great minds talk about ideas. And I'm an idea man. I like to talk about ideas. I like to philosophize. I like to talk about history and technology, not politics. Technology, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, business, and finance. I love to talk about self-improvement and growth and very relevant things. When I'm at a barbecue, like picture me at a barbecue. What am I going to talk about? Hey, how are you? Same old shit, different day. Yeah, I like talking about food. I like movies. So I can hang, but it's not my whole self. Statistically, I'm a weirdo, and I'm the weirdest of the weirdos, and that's okay, and I'm learning how to be okay with that. But back in the day, I used to try to fit in. I would try to manufacture fitting in that wasn't fully authentic. I would try to belong where maybe I don't belong. And I had these moments in the past when I'd be at a concert or whatever. Insert thing I normally wouldn't do, only did because I was dragged there by a friend and I wanted to keep the friendship. And I would just have this moment of, I don't belong here. I'm not supposed to be here. I'd have that calling. Maybe that's a calling. Maybe that's a knowing. Maybe that's a self-awareness thing. Maybe it's my intuition. I don't know. But I would have that moment of, you're not supposed to be here. And so I would just go seek solitude and just want to be alone because I would get so distorted by all the nonsense that I feel like one of my core values is say things that matter to people who care. And sometimes I feel like I'm in environments where we're saying things that don't matter to people who don't care. And I just can't stay there long. I lose myself. When you're around people too much and too often, I think you lose yourself because we all are social creatures who want to belong. So the other kind of imposter syndrome. So Kevin's is I'm being interviewed by a doctor from space and I didn't go to college. That's the short, playful version. Mm-hmm. Mine is I'm at a barbecue and I don't feel like I can be fully me because no one really cares about anything I care about. No one wants to talk about Einstein and his relativity theorem. And I do. And that's why I loved going to engineering school because it was all nerds who loved that stuff. I mean, we were mining for Bitcoin in 2007 on our freaking freshman floor, dorm room. And if we had kept those...
any of that means...
Well, exactly.
I do know
right?
what it means, but okay, not really.
We made a mistake by not keeping the Bitcoin.
But
at the end of the day, what'd you say?
Good for me.
What's good for you?
That you don't have a bunch of Bitcoin.
Oh yeah. Fair. Okay, I didn't connect that.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, I played chess, and my buddy Kiki and I, we would argue who was smarter, Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, and Apple versus PC, and I don't know, just really weird. And so anyways, anyone out there who's weird, own it, live in that. I was at a barbecue and I felt out of place. Kevin felt out of place in some of the interviews with some of the intellectuals. And now we're at a place where we're both emotionally mature enough and intellectually intelligent enough to really hang in both those arenas and still stay ourselves. And I think that takes tremendous courage. I said this earlier today. It's a quote I've never said before. I know we got to go. I was on with Alicia. Shout out to Alicia. She wouldn't mind me saying that, first names only. And I said 99% of success is courage. I'm convinced of it. You're either afraid of failure or you're afraid of success. You're either afraid of being incompetent and not enough or you're afraid of not fitting in. 99% of success is courage. You got to have the courage to act anyway. I go to a speech with Kev, 300 students, 3 separate sections. I'm afraid everyone's going to hate me. He's afraid he's not going to add value. And we have to both face our fear in order to achieve our dreams.
This is what I would say. This is the last thing I'd say before we go. You're again, I'm not saying it's this simple, but you're either afraid that all of you is not enough or all of you is too much.
Yeah, that's
That's
fire.
Either all of everything I have is not going to be enough for this. I'm not going to be able to hang. I'm going to get found out. Or all of you is too much. And
I
honestly,
almost never feel that first one. That's
I
fascinating.
feel the second one. It's very new to me, but I also understand. I don't take it personally. It's like, yeah, no, I can understand why you don't want to talk about consistency or habits or whatever. It's like, yeah, makes sense. Let's talk about this beer.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Can you do that? I know I got to jump, but can you go down that was fire, that one-liner? What was it?
You're going to be late. We are either afraid that all of us is not enough or all of us is too much.
That is one of the best things I've ever heard. That's fire. Right.
That somebody clip that right there. I need that in writing. Proof.
It's good stuff.
But I think that's all it is. I think
Same.
that's all it is. In a simple form.
So you
all
either have to have the courage to be all of what you are in face
Either
of the fear,
way,
or you have to have the courage of doing it even though you might not be good enough or whatever.
Either way,
So,
you got to see what the outcome is.
Yep.
It's like, or you just be a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more of yourself. A little bit more on each way, I think.
or a little bit less, a little bit less, a little bit less. No,
depending.
don't do that.
Well,
yeah.
I don't know. We'll do a deeper dive on that. All right, tomorrow we don't know the episode because we are the worst, but we are going to get our S together, I promise. Next Level Nation, if you haven't joined, please do. Meetups coming up. Check out the website. New Dreamliner coming soon. And that's that. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We'll talk to you all tomorrow. Thank you for sticking with us through 2 quick episodes.
Lean into courage. Next Level Nation.